Hey guys, another One Take review. Today I wanted to do the third installment of my Rock Hall review series where I review one album by each of the current year's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees. Today I'm talking about Dionne Warwick, and more specifically her record Heartbreaker. Now, Dionne Warwick is an artist that I really should have probably checked out more up until this point. Beyond her album Make Way for Dionne Warwick, which I've always liked, I've never really gone past her 60s output, generally speaking. And I'm glad that this series has given me an excuse to check out more of her discography, because even though I don't think this is a masterpiece or anything like that, I do think it was a fairly pleasant surprise, all things considered. I should also add that the main reason that I specifically chose this record out of her pretty surprisingly huge discography is the fact that the Bee Gees' Gibbs Brothers were a fairly major part of this album, so that's the main reason why I checked this out, and I do think that's just a interesting tidbit that I wanted to add in before I actually began the review. Anyways, I digress, let me continue. Dionne Warwick's voice has always been a strong one, and I don't think that her voice actually sounds as weak as I nearly thought it was going to be here. Unfortunately, a lot of singers in general, no matter what genre, begin to lose their voice after what people would consider to be their youthful years or anything, their prime. And I mean, Dionne Warwick's was obviously the late '60s, early '70s, and this record came out in the '80s. So I guess I was sort of going into this expecting her voice to not sound bad per se, but to be weaker than what I have heard of her up to this point. But she really doesn't lose her voice here. I mean, she delivers vocal work that easily rivals and sometimes actually surpasses her younger years with work like Walk On By and whatnot. And even though I haven't really hugely explored her discography, like I said before, I can kind of tell that, at least from Heartbreaker alone, that Dionne Warwick was still managing to hold on to a really excellent voice into the '80s, which is something that a lot of her fellow '60s pop stars and soul artists were often unable to do for one reason or another. As you might have guessed by the fact that this is a soul album from 1982, the instrumentation is it's severely outdated. I mean, you can tell this is from 1982. From 1982 to 1986 would, I can guarantee you, be the majority of the public's guesses of when Heartbreaker came out. If you just randomly walked up to a person on the street and ask them what year you thought this album came out in, definitely within that time frame. It's just very of the time, but at the same time, I find it endearing. I understand why a lot of people don't. It's something that's very easy to just not enjoy at all. But I find it charming in a strange sort of way. It's not good per se. It's cheesy, kind of goofy, in all honesty, depending on the song and all that. But I don't know. I think it's a kind of a interesting charm about it that sort of, I won't say it makes it stand out among other '80s soul albums, because it really doesn't. But there's just a certain likability about it, in my opinion. What I think actually mainly drags this album down is actually the production. I do think that Carl Richardson's work here is very, like I said before, like the instrumentals of the time, but not in the charming way that the instrumentals were. I think that Richardson's production work here really kind of overly compresses the album and sort of holds it back from being a really great example of a '80s pop soul. I mean, you have some really strong songs here, like I Can't See Anything But You, that are just sort of held back and would have been better with a much more lush and just overall full kind of sound that really just is not brought here at all. It's almost the exact opposite of that, really. And I won't say it ruins the album, because it definitely doesn't, but it does at least kind of chain it down a bit from being, like I said, a really genuinely great record. The big issue for me, at least, with a lot of mainstream, at least, '80s soul music and a lot of just '80s music in general, is that sort of sense of commercialism. Just the genre was in a very rough place at the time, in my opinion, and whether it be the newer acts of the time or those '60s and '70s artists making comebacks like Dionne Warwick, there was just sort of a sense of plasticness all about it, in my opinion. But this album doesn't always fall to that. I mean, occasionally it does, but you do have some songs here, like Misunderstood, that I won't say they're emotional masterpieces that'll make me, break out into tears and anything like that, but I will say that there's a little more heart and soul put into them than the average soul record of the time. Nothing like super impressive or anything, but at least something worth noting. So overall, Heartbreaker isn't like a great achievement in Dionne Warwick's career or anything like that. But I mean, it's even though the production does end up kind of falling flat totally, the kind of behind the scenes work from the brothers Gibb and Dionne Warwick's voice ensure that she was able to keep up with younger, fresher talent of the time and genuinely stand out and not just sort of fall to the sort of discount rack of soul artists from previous decades trying to make a comeback, which was a recurring theme across all genres, really, in the 80s for some reason. So I don't think that this is a great album, but it's definitely not a bad album, and it's more than a decent album. So all I'm left to say is 3.5 stars out of 5. This is a good album. Like I said, production is not really all that great, but the performance is genuine, and I feel like heartfelt might be a strong word, but it's got soul to it. So yeah, 3.5 stars out of 5. It's a good album. Now, this is normally a part where I end the review, but now, since this is the Rock Hall Review series, I talk about Dionne Warwick's credentials for getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in all honesty, I do think that she is one of the more marginal inductees, or nominees, I should say, this year. It's, I've a 50-50 relationship with her nomination. On one hand, she did make some really classic songs, mainly with Walk On By, and you could argue that Make Way for Dionne Warwick is kind of a classic album now. But at the same time, I do feel kind of like her discography and her status in pop culture doesn't really hold up to other sort of like diva figures that aren't inducted. I mean, we just got Whitney Houston inducted not long ago, but even artists that I don't really like Mariah Carey, I can't stand Mariah Carey, and I hate her music with every fiber of my being, but she deserves to be in much more than Dionne Warwick, an artist that I actually like, and I hate to admit that. I really do. It causes me physical pain. It actually makes just me want to curl up into a ball, but Mariah Carey does deserve to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. My point is, it feels weird to have Dionne Warwick, an artist with a small handful of classic songs that's sort of known in circles that are, based around that sort of a diva pop star kind of figure, and not have artists like Mariah Carey, and it just feels strange because Dionne Warwick just seems like such a very, I don't want to say niche, because niche is the wrong word, because that would imply that she's not a part of the mainstream. She is. I mean, but besides the fact that her music is fairly well known, Saturday Night Live has done skits about her on the talk show that are actually very funny that I would recommend watching. Her Twitter account was kind of getting very popular there for a while because, again, Dionne Warwick is actually a very, very funny individual, but I don't know, as an inductee, I wouldn't mind seeing her get in just to say that, hey, you guys inducted Dionne Warwick, good job, and it's always good to have more female representation in the hall. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know, I feel like there are much, much better options they could have gone with. So I won't say she deserves to be in, but I won't say she doesn't deserve to be in, because it's not that she doesn't deserve to be in, it's just I'm kind of indifferent about her actually getting inducted. So I'll just say I'm indifferent on her nomination, and I was indifferent on her nomination, I believe it was last year, and if she doesn't get in, she gets nominated again in future years, I'll probably be indifferent then too, so, eh. So yeah, overall, 3.5 stars out of 5. Good album, not great. Production weak, performance strong. Yeah, fire bad, and that's the end of this review. Does she deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Maybe. I don't know. I guess I would really. I've researched a little bit of her legacy, and she has influenced a number of artists. So I guess maybe. If she gets in, she gets in. If she doesn't, she doesn't. That's the way I view things personally. There's stronger choices, but she's not Percy Sledge, and that's the important part. Because as the one artist, I would actually just completely not allow to look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ever again, and I don't understand why he's in. So, yeah, that's my comparison grading scale is Percy Sledge, and well, Dionne Warwick isn't Percy Sledge, so. Yeah, 3.5 stars out of 5 for this record. Heartbreaker's good. Listen to it, and that's the end of this review. So I'll see you guys in the next one.